One of the most popular topics when I work with students is how do I get messages about the future? So, have you ever wondered, I thought I was going to do this and then it played out a different way? Well, stay tuned because today I'm literally going to be talking about how to predict the future. Welcome to Spiritual and Ambitious. I'm your host, Whitney McNeill. I'm a certified medium and spiritual teacher, and I help spiritual and ambitious souls just like you live your life purpose through your career and attract abundance by connecting into your intuition and spirit guides. Let's get spiritual and ambitious. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Spiritual and Ambitious podcast. I am going to be pulling some messages from the Messenger of Spirit Oracle deck. And if you have not taken my free class all about how to clearly communicate with your spirit guides, you're going to want to do that. You can go over to messengerofspirit.com/class or check the show notes to do that. But let's see what your spirit guides have to tell you now. The first one is your higher self. Your life purpose is calling. This is a big card that's been coming up over and over and over. And it's all about this right now is the time for your life purpose. It is a big deal. We are being called to live it. So listening clearly. This is really important to listen in. And I know that the most powerful way to connect with your life purpose is to develop your intuition. The next card is the open door card. Say yes to new opportunities. So new opportunities coming in, make sure you say yes. And the divine timing card, let go of your timeline. Spirit has a plan for you. So if you feel like there's been resistance or things just aren't working out in the timeline that you want them to work out, know that Spirit's got a plan. It doesn't always have to be on your timeline. All right. So if you love these messages, I encourage you to listen to our Sunday messages in the month of October to help you set your energy for the week. But on Wednesdays, we have our regular episodes, which is what I'm getting ready to get into, how to predict the future. So students that work with me inside of Intuition Abundance Academy and 4 intuitive languages will always ask about predicting the future, especially when you're giving readings to other people. This one can feel very scary, but I'm going to break down what it means. So first, let's take the word predict out of it. Yes, I named this episode all about predicting the future, but let's just take it out because the future is really the past that has not happened yet. That is what my mentor would always tell me. He is in spirit now, but he'd always say the future is the past that has not happened. And I always just kind of look at him like, huh? But here's why. The future is not linear. Spirit's time kind of all exists in the present. And if you were to look at time, I would look at it as a circle instead of a line. When Spirit is going to give you future messages, they are basing a lot of the opportunities coming up for you, the opportunities they're creating for you, and decisions that you're going to make based on the decisions you've already made before. So your vibration rate, your vibration is made up of your thoughts, your emotions, all of your energy. And part of what contributes to that vibration is how much resistance you have in your energy. Part of what is in your vibration is also resistance of saying yes to new opportunities or not. Also, it's excitement, what's joyful in your energy. And all these different components will factor into where Spirit is going to, air quotes here, predict you're going to be landing. So for me, one example I've used before, I never talked to my spirit guides about the fact that I wanted to start my own business. I was just kind of saying like, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I wasn't saying I'm absolutely 100% serious on this. This is what is going to happen. I was a person very risk adverse. So starting a business involves a certain amount of risk. There's not necessarily a guarantee when you're starting a business. And so, because of those factors, when I received a reading from my mentor, I did not receive a, oh, yes, you will be starting your business. It was a, you'll be working for somebody else. I was like, no, screw that. That is not what I want. So, in order to change the future, you have to change your energy because it's based truly on the present. Now, your spirit guides can give you messages as far as what opportunities that they are going to create for you. But guess what? They're only going to create opportunities that are in alignment in your vibration now. So if you're at this precipice where you're going to make a change, then it will be really important to communicate that with your spirit guides. And oftentimes we actually need to kind of prove it. Yeah, like give evidence that we are actually going to make the change. So I'll give you a couple examples. I know somebody who was talking about getting a dog and applied for the dog on a application for rescue, and this person was amazing. There's no reason her application would be denied, but they went with somebody else. So that is her telling her spirit guides, I am ready for this dog. I'm going to actually get a dog. I have put my application in. I'm ready and open. And so her spirit guides said, all right, that was a test. You're going to get a dog. We're going to give you this new opportunity. So she found another opportunity, applied, and out of all the applications, they picked her. And guess what? She has a dog. Same situation with me. I had this feeling I wanted to do speaking. So I felt led intuitively to do this speaking position and put my application in. It did not get chosen. However, my spirit guide said, cool, we gave you that idea because there's another opportunity we wanted to create for you. And we want to make sure you're ready for it. So now we're going to give it to you easy peasy. Like that's it. So that's how you can change your future. You can start to put energy and effort into certain things. The requirement of changing the future is going to be you making change, you doing different things, not just thinking differently. It starts there, but actually taking the change. So when we come back, let's talk about how to change the future. As a professional psychic medium, I've done tens of thousands of readings, but I felt a call to move more fully into teaching intuition. But I still get so many requests about doing readings. So while I don't do readings anymore, I have brought in some very trusted colleagues who are now available for live 1 hour readings on Zoom. If you would like to book your psychic medium reading, go to messengerofspirit.com/appointments to see our available readers and schedule your Zoom reading today. Thanks for hanging in there. Today we're talking about predicting the future. And the first thing I said was take the word predict out of it. And we've talked about spirit and how messages can come through about the future, but let's talk about changing the future. So, what are the different factors that change the future? Well, one I just told you before the break, we need to actually take different action if we want to change a different outcome. We will need to start actually doing things towards a certain goal that we want in order for our spirit guides to know that we're serious. And of course, that is going to start with your thoughts. When you think, I should do this, then if you feel excited about it, it gives it more energy and you actually take the action and your spirit guides start to take notice and you start to see, okay, things are going to shift and change. So I want to talk about future changing when it comes to readings and those things. Why does the future change? Most of the time, the future does not change, but the small little different increments and opportunities might come at different timings or different kind of ways. The future itself usually does not change drastically unless you as a person will change drastically. But the nuances will. So, for an example, with my first husband, I was supposed to meet this person to kind of resolve some karma. However, I wasn't supposed to marry him. That was a free will choice. My spirit guides kept saying, no, 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 don't do this. My human brain at the moment did not see a way that I shouldn't marry him. I thought, I've committed to this. I'm going to go into this marriage, even though my spirit guides are like, no, 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 and gave me all the signs. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I changed that future with marriage. However, I still would have met him. I still would have resolved karma, but I added a few more years, a few more steps because I changed it. So it wasn't too far off, but it was different. So that is how we can change the future based on free will and different decisions. Let's say that you are someone that loves to go on retreats and spirit has a retreat lined up for you. And at that retreat, you're going to be meeting somebody. However, all of a sudden you decide, you know what? I just saw this documentary on finances. I'm not going to go. I'm going to save money. And it's completely different than any decision you've made in the past. Well, now you're not going to meet that person at the retreat, but spirit is going to try to orchestrate you meeting that person or someone that can bring you the same lesson and knowledge of that person. Sometimes we literally need to meet a person, and sometimes we just need to learn a lesson that they can show us. So it will be delayed. I look at my now husband, my second husband, and when we had talked about all the different places that we had been, it is so wild. I worked right next door to a place that he would go to like every couple days. We probably ran into each other, but never actually met. And this is because I made certain decisions, he made certain decisions, and we weren't ready to meet until we both had evolved into a certain vibration level. So you have to look at it at this place of, well, I'm not drastically changing the future most of the time. Well, let's talk about readings. If you're giving a reading to somebody and you say, you're going to meet so and so, and they say, well, when? And you say 2 years, this is why it can change because there's different scenarios. However, most of the time, the spirit guides that are working with you are going to be pretty darn accurate because most of the time people follow suit with their vibration level and they don't make too many drastic changes in their life. But that is an example, free will or doing something just out of the normal vibration. Sometimes people say, well, I was led to do something and it didn't work out. Well, I'm going to go back to the example of sometimes your spirit guides test you to make sure that you really want to do it, and then they give you a better solution later. So sometimes people don't follow their intuition or they feel like the future didn't work out and they thought something was going to work out. And it's like, no, they just wanted to make sure that you were really ready. And then sometimes we have to follow our intuition because we need to learn a certain lesson too. So that's an example as why the future can feel like it's changed. But really, in that example, the future hasn't changed, just as you were led by your intuition and trusting the process. The issue is, but I thought it was going to work out. I thought it was going to be positive. That is our ego that gets in the way versus really what's going on is your intuition is saying, this is going to be really positive because it's going to lead to something else. Or our intuition is saying, yeah, we're going to learn a lesson on a soul level. Heck yeah. And your ego thinks it's supposed to look a certain way. So that's an example of how things can change. But now let's talk about like big changes, big future changes. I just watched the movie The Flash, and it reminds me of all these timeline changes. It's so interesting. In the movie, they use these two pieces of spaghetti, and they're talking about when you change time, it can move on a different trajectory. And that's more of what I'm talking about right now. It is rare, but there are some people who will drastically change their life. Let's say that somebody has a very routine life And let's say that they are an accountant and they are wanting to just eat the same meals every day. Maybe they prep their meals on Sundays. They have their budget all worked out. And personality of this person is very reserved, doesn't take a lot of risks. And so this person is pretty much in a routine place. Now, I just use the profession of an accountant. You could use something else. So this person has all these plans for their future. And if they continue on this trajectory, they will most likely advance in their career, become a senior level accountant or even a partner at the firm, and this is their life. However, let's say the person chooses to do something way out of the normal and someone gifts them a trip to another country. Or let's say that this person has a health issue where they have a massive heart attack and they have a near-death experience, or not even to that extreme, but it makes them question their purpose and who they are in life. Let's say they go to a different country and they start seeing a different way where people are living and they're exposed to different career paths and things of that sort. These kind of moments can set this person on a different trajectory. So let's use the health example. Something happens, they question their purpose. Then they start to really unravel why they're doing what they're doing. And they start wanting to find a more purposeful career. Now, I'm not saying being an accountant is not purposeful. It is. We need accountants. I'm just using this as an example. Maybe this person is a healer and they're not in a healing profession. Then that person's future is going to change, right? Because of those situations. That is an example of how that can happen. Let's say this person explores a different country and says, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to travel. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to travel the world and I'm going to have a travel blog. And that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. That's an example of how things can shift and change. And will spirit know this? Sometimes the free will? No. If you're a person that is always spontaneous and you're doing different things, yeah, spirit's probably going to give you some parameters of what your life's probably going to look like. I'm talking about those unexpected surprise moments that occur where something is completely changing and shifting in your life. A lot of the times, spirit will know these things. And so in a reading, they might say someone's going to gift you with a trip, but they don't always know about health. And they're not always going to tell you about health. It's something that would scare you. I'm going to give you an example. I was doing a reading from someone years ago. She asked me about her husband, and I said, I'm only seeing the next 6 months. And then for whatever reason, I'm not seeing what's after the 6 months. She said, why? I said, I don't know. But during the reading, I said, around 6 months, I see a financial outcome and it involves you and him. Well, 6 months happened and he passed into spirit, and that financial outcome was his life insurance. That's an example of how spirit, one, is saying there's no reason to change the trajectory. This is what's supposed to happen. So we're not going to give any messages about how to counteract the situation. It's also a comforting message to know that spirit understands and knows things more so that we could understand them. So understanding there can be health things that they know, but sometimes spirit doesn't know. Sometimes spirit's not privy to know, and sometimes we're not privy to know, and that does exist. It is more on the rare end, but it does happen. So here's my advice to you. If you want to predict your own future, again, predict in air quotes, I would look at your past and all the decisions that you've made. How does that make up your present? How do you act? What do you want for your future? And are you taking actions to change it or to work towards that future that you want? When you're doing all these things and you're talking to your spirit guides and you're asking your spirit guides for guidance and to create opportunities, this is why it's so important for you to say yes. Because when you say yes, you start moving into more of that future version of who you want to be. All right, this is a little bit more heady than I wanted it to be, but I wanted to show you the behind the scenes of how this goes down. So check out the next Spirit Sunday episode. And then, of course, I will be here on Wednesday with a full one. Check out the Spirit Guide Masterclass. And here's to staying spiritual and ambitious. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And if you loved it, would you please share it with a friend? I would also love your review and a reminder to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find me at messengerofspirit.com, and you can take the 4 Intuitive Languages quiz and find show notes there too. If you want to connect on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, you can find me at Messenger of Spirit. I'll meet you right here next week. Here's to staying spiritual and ambitious.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.